All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the Wake Up Crew here to talk some NBA prop bets over on PrizePicks for this Wednesday, May the 4th, 2022 NBA playoff slate. Tonight, we have the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks facing off, as well as the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat. I was going to say the Sixers again. The Sixers and the Heat. Jay, I just got to give you credit. You've been throwing out some good picks. You've been throwing out some good props. You talked about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown three-pointers. I forced you to pick one or the other. You said if you had to pick one or the other, you'd be Jason Tatum, but you did like Jaylen Brown. Both of those cashed. Jason Tatum finished with 5 3-pointers. Jaylen Brown nailed his three-point prop in like the first quarter. It was money. We were on Grayson Allen. Put him on a milk carton. He went missing. We went to the Grayson Allen well one too many times. Later in the comments with some of the YouTube commenters, I talked about Jaren Jackson. The model loved it. He was well on his way. And what does Jaren Jackson do? He does what Jaren Jackson does. Fouls out. 6 fouls. He fouls out. Finishes with 27.9 fantasy score. That was a miss. But I did talk about Jason Tatum over his fantasy score of 44. He cruised past that, even starting slow. Had multiple steals in that game. Even turned the ball over 5 or 6 times. Still cruised past his fantasy score. Al Horford is going to be a monster in this series. He went over his fantasy score. And PrizePicks gave us a gift of Giannis Antetokounmpo, his taco over 5 assists. He hit that, and then he hit the assist play that we talked about, 6.5. So with the taco, you can only bet up to $20, but I still took Giannis over 6.5 because the data said so, and he still hit that. So overall, very profitable day, but who cares? We're on to the next day. You're only as good as what you provide on that day. So we've got a couple of plays that we want to talk about tonight, and we'll get into those right now.
For all the high-flying action, take a step back and relax. It's time to count that money, the NBA props. No look any further. You know what time it is. Presented by PrizePicks, NBA props. Let's
count that money, man. All right, Jay, where do you want to go to first on tonight's matchups?
I'm going to South Beach because if there's one thing that I can count on more than anything, it's that James Harden is going to be able to do nothing against this Miami Heat defense. We saw it already with the first series, honestly, with the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young was mauled by that defense. And I understand, Trae Young a little bit smaller, but James Harden, 9 assists? I don't think so, pal. I'm just not really there yet. James Harden struggled a lot against Toronto with the way they played him. And he's, like I said, he's averaging 9.2. But if you take out that 15-assist game against Toronto, he's just not quite getting it done, not quite getting there. We saw he had 5 assists against Miami last game. We saw Trae Young never had even 9 assists in this series against Miami. I just think Miami's too good, man. I think they're just going to force the ball out of his hands. We saw Tobias Harris put up 27 points last game. And Miami don't care. They're like, Tobias, go nuts, score 30. As long as James Harden does nothing, Miami will be happy because he's the engine for that offense with Joel Embiid being out. I'm going to be taking the under on James Harden at 9 assists. I just think it's too high still. Again, there will be a point where it gets too low that I won't bet it, but for now, at 9, it's too high. He just came off 5. I could see him pushing this number. I think double digits is almost out of the question for James Harden. As talented as he is, I believe this Miami defense is just too good, and they're not going to do much with him there.
All right, James Harden under assists, and I'll talk about James Harden as well. His par, man, we've got him projected points, assists, rebounds. We have him projected at 36.8. They got the line set at 37.5. He's averaging 33.6 over his last 5. No Joel Embiid. If you're saying that his assists are going to go under, I don't think he's going to score a ton. You make a great point about how they blitzed Trae Young and just, forced the ball out of his hands. They're going to have to – Tobias Harris is going to be the guy that's going to have to sort of save him in this series. I don't like this number at all. 30 in Game 1 versus Miami. We talk about Miami and the pace of play. They just play so slow, and they're not going to let, Philly run up and down the court. I'm not in on Harden, man, so I'm with you. The assist number – I like whole numbers. I like when PrizePicks gives us round numbers like 9, 8, 7 because there's a potential for the push. 37.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I am not in on it, Jay. Don't like it at all. Probably going to take the under on that. I want to see what his fantasy score comes out to. With his fantasy score projected at 44.47, I don't like it either, man. And the reason why I would stay away from it is because we do have him projected for 1 steal. and, a quarter block. So I just don't want him to sneak into a couple of steals and hit the fantasy score, even if, the points, rebounds, and assists don't hit. So for me, with Harden, I think tonight I'm going to roll with his under points, rebounds, and assists, man.
Yeah, I like that. And so I think the biggest thing for me with both these series and these games is that there's just a lot of uncertainty with how these teams are ultimately going to play each other. We saw Luka go nuclear last game. We saw the bigs, in particular, Bam Adebayo and DeAndre Ayton, really play well in this series. Now, for me, I think I will be playing DeAndre Ayton today. DeAndre Ayton's points are set at 18.5 right now. He's gone over that in his last 5 games. And for me, just the way that I'm seeing it right now, I just don't believe that Dwight Powell or whoever they throw in the paint, they're going to be able to stop him. We saw this with Rudy Gobert, and we know DeAndre Ayton is lethal in the pick and roll. And he even still, when he decides to pop, he can still make a shot there. So for me, I'm going to be rolling with DeAndre Ayton. I just believe he's talented enough to get it done. And I think it's a great way for the Phoenix Suns to attack the Mavericks defense. Dwight Powell, like I said, barely played, was ineffective, and has been pretty much the whole playoffs so far. And I think Ayton's going to be able to get it done. Maybe not so much Chris Paul dishing him the ball, but we know that Booker is more than capable in his own right to get him the ball as well. And I believe that DeAndre Ayton will be hitting the 20-point threshold today in Phoenix.
Love this play, man. He's 5 of 5 in his last 5, averaging 23.4 in his last 5. We have him projected going over his point total of 18.5. We have his par projected to go over is at 30.5. I like the par, like the points. Look at this. Even his par, man. He's hit this number in 5 of his last 5. He's 100% in his last 5, averaging 35. I like it, man. I like the par. I like the points for DeAndre Ayton. We talked about it going into the game last time. I don't think they have anybody that's going to be able to deal with DeAndre Ayton. Like, they just don't. Dwight Powell can't do anything with him. He didn't hit his rebound number, but the points, right? Scoring points. He didn't have any assists in this one, but his past couple of games, getting close to about 2 assists in a game. All you're really banking for Ayton to hit the par is he needs to get his 20 points. If he gets his 20 points, 9 rebounds, he's got a shot, right? He needs 20 and 10. He needs 20 and 11 or 21 and 10 in order to hit. But I think Ayton, based on the trend of what he's been doing, scoring the ball, and Dallas's inability to do anything with him down low, I think he's primed for a good series. Like, let's not buck the trend. Let's not get too cute with this one. I'm with you. DeAndre Ayton's points and or par, but if you had to ask me, Ray, which one does the model like more, it's definitely the points for DeAndre Ayton. And the last play that I want to talk about, staying in this game, not Luka Doncic, but Dorian Finney-Smith. Right now, his points, rebounds, and assist number is set at 19.5. You see he's averaging 23.6 over his last 5 games. We have his par projected tonight at 22.2 in his fantasy score at 28.5. So I'm confident that the fantasy score will be roughly around where we have him projected. If I had to take a guess right now, Jay, I'd say PrizePicks will open the line at about 26. If it's at 25, that's giving me a 3-point edge. I'd probably pivot from the points, rebounds, and assists to his fantasy score. But right now, Dorian Finney-Smith over 19.5. We have him projected again at 22.2. I'm liking the over for Dorian Finney-Smith in the matchup versus Phoenix.
Yeah, no, like you said, he's going to have a lot of open shots. He's a guy who can get rebounds if he wants to get on the boards. And you were talking about DeAndre Jordan a little bit earlier, and so I want to throw one more play out there, and I want to talk about Bam Adebayo. And the reason why I'm looking at Bam Adebayo a little bit, not too much, is because I want to look at his points. The last game against the Philadelphia 76ers, he was the main source of their point totals, especially early on. And so he's a guy that you may want to be looking at to play. He's a weird player because he doesn't always get involved in the offense. He focuses on defense, and sometimes Jimmy can really be in takeover mode. But you see in the past 2 games, he's been trending the right direction, right? He scored 20 in this closeout game against Atlanta, then 24 points against Philly last game. Like I mentioned, they only have DeAndre Jordan in the middle. And the reason for that is because Joel Embiid is out. And while Philly's defense is great, when you look at all the metrics, it's obviously not the same with Joel Embiid out. And so Bam is a player that I will be watching closely today. And if this trend starts to continue, I may be looking at playing him a little bit, to seeing how things ultimately look. I have to look at some of the more advanced metrics, but he got the ball early and often. And if that's going to happen in this series, because we know that DeAndre Jordan is one of the worst defensive centers in all of the NBA, Bam could be a guy who'd be in play. I wouldn't go too heavy with this as a core play, but it's one that I want to look at from a trend perspective, because it's one of the few things I noticed in this last game that I want to be looking at again today.
But those are some of the plays that we're looking at. Dorian Finney-Smith, you said maybe a little Bam Adebayo over 8.5 points. DeAndre Ayton over his par or his points of 18.5. And then we like the unders for James Harden, whether that's his par or his assist total. So, feeling good about these. All of these were ran through the model and they look good. Fantasy score, I'll check, man. Like we were looking at Tyler Hero, some other players. We'll see what those come out to be. But right now, the ones that I feel really confident in, Dorian Finney-Smith, DeAndre Ayton, James Harden, taking some of those plays. And I think you're onto something with Bam Adebayo, and they're still giving us 18 for his points. Just want to ask one quick question about Devin Booker. He's been lighting it up. We have him projected very, very high. His points set at, 24.5 tonight on PrizePicks. Let me see what they have. Booker, 24.5. He's averaging 25 over his last 5. We haven't projected at 28 tonight. But you wanted to talk about his three-pointers real quick. 2. Set at 2. Do you have any interest in Devin Booker, 2 3-pointers?
Of course, he's Devin Booker, man. Like, it's so difficult for me to not want to play it. But again, he didn't hit it last game. That's the biggest problem. And right to your point, Devin Booker on the books is 26.5 for his point total. Now it is juiced to the under. And like we see, Devin Booker only hit his 3. He's just pushed his 3s in 3 of his last 5 and gone under in the past 2. Maybe it's the injury and coming back. We don't really know, but Devin Booker can light it up. He put 7 on New Orleans in game 5. So I'm intrigued. And with Devin Booker, man, he's always got a shot. He could hit this in the first quarter and it would be over. Like, he could push it in the first quarter. He could go way over. I want it. I want to take it. It's one that I'll be watching because it's a weird trend with Devin Booker right now and just the way they're playing him, but more than capable for sure from a talent perspective for Devin Booker to go over.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you tapping in. If you like the content, if you enjoy it, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. Let us know in the comments who you're playing, who you might want to see some fantasy score projections for. And as always, if you tail, give them hail. And if we fail, do not bail. We'll be back tomorrow with more data-driven analysis, data-driven picks over on PrizePicks. Good luck tonight if you tail, and we'll see you tomorrow. We out. Peace.